could say was responsible for it and who's since been charged in it. In this case, I think this ratchets up.
Excuse me. This is the Pentagon we're looking at now, according to my monitor. And again, it is hard to grasp what part of the building. We do not know if they're in the courtyard or outside, but you can see that a fairly considerable amount of damage has been done. We do not know whether these are offices or storage areas. The Pentagon is full of many thousands of people every day. The Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, has been saying only yesterday and today that he wants to reduce the bloatedness, as he put it, as he alluded to it, in the military and the bureaucracy. But this is the great home of the military bureaucratic establishment. John, before I come back to you, Dennis Cross is on the phone. Dennis, do you hear me? Dennis.
Right now, as you can see, I assume you're taking our picture. I do not have a monitor, but right now we just had a middle section here of the E-ring of the Pentagon collapse from the amount of fire and destruction from this. So obviously there was a great deal of damage here. It just collapsed. We don't know who is inside or how many people are inside. You heard somebody, one of the people who was inside the building, talked to us a short time ago and said this E-ring of the Pentagon has a great many senior officials. So if somebody was planning something, this might have been the place if they wanted to get senior officials.
From here in Washington on these events.
As you can see, Megan McGrath is live at the Pentagon from Columbia Pike, very near the Pentagon. Megan, what can you tell us about the latest happening there?
Joe, I can't hear you. I'm assuming that you can hear and see me at this point. We are on Columbia Pike. If you take a look behind my shoulder, you can see the south side of the Pentagon. Actually, just moments before this happened, after the World Trade Center incident, we were headed from a different location to National Airport. We were on 395 when all of a sudden we heard a boom and we saw this huge fireball rise from the Pentagon. We knew immediately that something terribly wrong had happened, and we made our way to this location. That something terribly wrong had happened, and we made our way to this location. We originally pulled up, there's a gas station nearby, had a really good view of the south side of the Pentagon. Smoke, flames, it was just a real mess. Very, very shocking. And of course, people were running around. The Navy Annex is located nearby. There was all kinds of smoke in the area. People were very, very confused. There was a construction crew nearby. They didn't understand what happened, and people were just running toward the scene, trying to see if they could be of any assistance, trying to figure out what happened. Now, I have an eyewitness here.
Let's just sort of go through what has happened here. Just before 9 o'clock, New York City, a plane crashes into the World Trade Center. 903, a second plane, clearly a large plane, now believed to be a 767, smashes into the second tower of the World Trade Center. Then here in Washington, smoke at the Pentagon. Turns out some sort of a plane. Initial reports said a helicopter, but something crashed into the Pentagon or near the Pentagon, enough to set off major fire and explosion, resulting now in major evacuations in federal buildings around the city, and air traffic in the country has been shut down.
The Associated Press now reporting that a portion of the Pentagon has, in their words, collapsed. We're going to get much more specifics on that. This is the initial word from the Associated Press. We have no idea the extent of any such collapse as it may take place.
So it does appear now it was a direct hit.
It does appear that it was a direct hit. Hopefully the damage, though, might hopefully have not been as bad as it had been hitting in the center of the building. Audrey is on the scene there, and we'll try to get some more information from her if possible.
When she saw what happened, can you tell me, you say that you saw a plane actually strike the side of the Pentagon. Tell me exactly what you saw.
I saw a plane going down big plane, commercial liner type, going down full speed and just inside the side of the Pentagon. Obviously, it was going in the Pentagon purposely. And we were driving down Columbia Pike, and it just flew right over us, as I said, full speed. And I told my husband, it's going in the Pentagon, it's going in the Pentagon. And then we heard the huge crash, saw this fireball, and flame, and smoke, and...
So you actually saw the plane impact the side of the building?
Yes, I did.
Just one plane?
Just one plane.
Tell me a little bit about the size of the plane. Did you see any commercial markings, any markings at all on the plane?
I didn't see any marking because it was, we just saw the underneath portion of it. So, and it just, as I said, was going full speed. So we didn't have time really to see anything, plus with the trees. It just, as I said, was going full speed, so we didn't have time really to see anything, plus with the trees. You know, maybe if I could have looked at it longer, maybe I would have seen something, but with the trees there, the trees line, we didn't see any type of marking. But it was a big plane, maybe 737, my husband said 747, but I'm not positive, I don't know for sure. But it was big, definitely the kind of plane you get on when you want to fly to LA or wherever.
Now, probably about the same length of time as you have. I have heard a total of 3 booms, that initial boom, and then I heard 3 less large booms, but booms nonetheless. Have you heard the same thing?
Yes, I did. Smaller explosions. Maybe it's inside the building, some gas lines exploding or something. I don't know. But we heard the other explosions. I don't see any other smoke anywhere, so I suppose it's from inside the building.
Okay, Isabel James, thank you very much for joining us. So there is a certain amount of chaos. From what we can kind of gather from here, it looks like they have let everybody out of the Navy Annex. There are just a lot of people wandering in the parking lot, and as you can see over there, a lot of them sitting up on the ridge and just watching as emergency crews arrive on the scene and do their job. And of course, everybody is trying to piece together exactly what happened. I mean, this was very unexpected. I can just give our example. We were just driving by, just happened to be in the same location as the Pentagon, when all of a sudden there was this big boom. It was quite sudden, it was quite loud, there was a fireball. We couldn't actually see the Pentagon itself when the explosion occurred because we were up on the highway. We saw the cloud of smoke and the fireball rise above the freeway, and we knew what direction it was coming from. We knew it was in the vicinity of the Pentagon, and that's when we arrived here on the scene. Should say that as soon as we got here, there were flames again on the south side of the Pentagon, and a short time later, I would say, we heard, and these are approximate times, we heard roughly 10 minutes later a smaller explosion. Didn't see anything unusual. The building was already on fire and was already smoking, so I don't know whether it was perhaps a gas line inside the building or something else entirely. But we have, since the initial explosion, have heard 2 smaller explosions, but we just don't have the information about what exactly happened there. But you just heard from the eyewitness. In fact, she's the second person that I have talked to who says that they saw a plane actually slam into the side of the Pentagon. And of course, in light of what happened in New York this morning, certainly is an interesting turn of events. But in terms of the rescue effort, we have been seeing emergency personnel arriving on the scene ever since this happened. You can see there appears to be, I don't know, John, can you see there's a military some military personnel up here on the ridge. This ridge right here, a lot of people have been coming out of the annex, and a lot of cars have been stopping on the highway, and people have been getting out of their cars, and they've been up on this ridge because you get a pretty good view of what's going on.
It collapsed right now. As you can see, I assume you're taking our picture. I do not have a monitor, but right now we just had a middle section here of the E-ring of the Pentagon collapse from the amount of fire and destruction from this. So obviously there was a great deal of damage here. It just collapsed. We don't know who is inside or how many people are inside. You heard somebody, one of the people who was inside the building, talked to us a short time ago and said this E-ring of the Pentagon has a great many senior officials. So if somebody was planning something, this might have been the place if they wanted to get senior officials. Again, most of the fire on the outside of the building. has been extinguished. There's still some spot fires on the outside of the building, and still, from what I can see, a great deal of fire inside. So now you have a gaping hole on the west side of the Pentagon here at Washington Boulevard, and this collapse just happened. It was not an explosion, a secondary explosion. This apparently the damage from the great deal of fire and the structural damage from the plane crash.
Any word yet, Dave, on casualties?
Other than seeing the two people we saw medevac who had serious burns, I can't confirm any others. They've been working on people, but we don't know what's inside that building, to be honest with you.
So
certainly anybody in those windows or in those offices by those windows, you have to be very, very concerned about right now.
All right, Dave Statter, reporting from the Pentagon. Here you can see from Dave's camera shot several people being escorted out of the Pentagon. The Pentagon is being evacuated, as is the White House, the U.S. Capitol.
Most monuments, museums, the city basically, as you've heard from Frank Herzog and from photojournalist Rick Armstrong near the Washington Monument, closed down. Almost everything is closed down.
As you can see, a portion of the Pentagon has collapsed. This happened after a jet apparently deliberately plowed into the Pentagon.
We have Daniel McAdams on the phone. He is an eyewitness. Daniel, good morning. What did you see and where are you?
I'm here in Arlington, just off of Columbia Pike, probably about 2.5 miles from the Pentagon. And we were sitting in our living room having coffee, and it sounded like a military jet flyover that they do sometimes, you know, a very, very low altitude flyover. And then just a couple of seconds later, we heard a massive boom. All of our doors and windows shook. We went outside, looked out the window, and then saw a plume of smoke.
All right, Daniel, thank you very much. Let's go back to Dave Statter. Dave, what do you have?
I know, hey, they're evacuating us now. They believe another plane. This could be a rumor, but they're evacuating everybody. Possibility of another plane coming in this direction. Certainly, but this is a major evacuation at the moment. Again, it could all be rumor, but FBI is evacuating everybody out of this area. I've got to go at the moment because they will not let me stay here.
Be safe, be safe. And we heard from Frank Herzog that boom that Dave thought